Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. We're going to look at CSS selectors, and then we're going to look at CSS specificity. And we already did that a little bit, but I thought we'd just do a fast review of selectors and specificity. How many people are interested? How many people are not interested in those topics? Cool. So some interested hands, and then nobody was not interested. So what is this one called? What kind of a selector is that? Well, how would you categorize that selector? I've highlighted it. That is an element selector. We've selected the body element. What about this one? What is that? What kind of selector is that? That's an ID selector. We've selected an ID, right? So we have ID selector. We have an element selector. What kind is this? That's a class selector, right? What's the difference between ID and class?
ID has higher. You don't have one ID higher.
Great. Great. So one of the primary differences between ID and class is an ID can only be used once in your HTML. If I came down here and tried to use my ID again, I guess I can. But it's showing me a little underline there. And duplicate ID reference. See, my editor's saying, no, you can't do that. You see that? I take that out, that little red underline goes away. So my editor is showing me that that's not okay. But a class, I could do that twice. Yo-yo, yo-yo. And then somebody said, hey, another difference between an ID and a class is with the CSS specificity. And we're going to see this more in a second. That's not what I want. I want CSS specificity calculator. And here we go, Keegan. And so here ID has a higher specificity than a class. So if you had something that had both an ID and a class applied to it, for instance, let me give you an example. We'll go up to this temp one. And we have index. And we'll take all this out, and we'll just do a paragraph. And what do you want me to say? And we'll give it an ID of yo, and a class of yo-yo. And then we'll come up here, and we will say pound yo. Color red, and dot yo-yo, color blue. Is that paragraph going to be red or blue?
Red.
It's going to be red because red has a higher specificity, okay? And even though red was shown first here, red. Nice. Cool. So that's a ID and a class. And an element, and then we could have multiple elements. So here's a multiple elements. This is being applied to both a div and a paragraph. Correcto? Mundo? Right? And you could continue to separate things. If I wanted to, I could say, and yo, and yo, yo. So these are selectors, and they're being applied to this is a rule set. A rule set's made up of a selector and a declaration block. Declaration blocks have declarations, and declarations have properties and values. And so this is just looking at how we could separate, we could apply multiple selectors to something. And so both the div and the paragraphs would all be red, okay? So this would all that text would be red. Divs and paragraphs are all red, color red. These are all divs and paragraphs. And I put in the emmet here, just kind of a curio. All right, so what about this? No comma. What is that? This is the element inside an element kind of thing. So when you don't have a comma, it's saying, you read it from right to left, and it's saying any paragraph that is inside a div. Okay? And we're going to make it red. So what paragraphs are going to be red here? First, second, third, fourth, fifth, or sixth? Lay your bets. Lay your wagers. All of them are going to be red? Let's look at that. You know that's not the right answer just by the tonal quality of my voice. Which ones? Ooh, ah, ee. which ones are going to be red?
First and second.
Okay, I hear some betting on first and second. I hear some betting on first, second, and third. So get your money on the table and let's see where that ball lands. I'm saying first, second, and third. Because those are all paragraphs which are inside a div. Okay. Now, what about this one? So before we had div, any paragraph that's inside a div. Now we have any paragraph that is an immediate direct child of a div. Another way you can read that is any paragraph that has a div as a parent, right? Where did I come from? You can see this kind of like as an arrow. The div had the child, which is a paragraph, or the paragraph has the parent, which is a div. So I'm saying only first and second. Anybody want to put some money somewhere else? Because this is a child of a section, that paragraph. That's what I'm saying, it's first and second. Okay, so that's the immediate direct child selector, that little greater than sign. Now we have a sibling selector. So a div with a plus P. So it's going to select the siblings of a div. What are the siblings of a div? Which paragraphs are siblings of divs? Place your bets. Which paragraphs are siblings of divs? A sibling is, you know what? You all had the same parent, right? So what is the parent of the div? Body. Who else has the parent which is a body? Fourth, fifth, and sixth. What about 0? I added 0 in there.
Oh, the word 0.
The 0 is the gotcha. Let's see. Is it going to be 0, 4th, 5th, and 6th, or just 4th, 5th, and 6th? It's just 4th. So it's immediate direct children. Immediate direct children. Or siblings. Immediate direct siblings. All right, like I'm right next to you. I'm holding your hand. I'm your sibling. So that's the plus sign. Okay? I got that one wrong a little bit. Just in doing this with you. What about all siblings? So before the plus is they're holding hands. There's a div and it has a sibling, which is a paragraph. And notice that it only selected div, it only selected this one, right? The sibling which followed. Here, it's div and it's it's all siblings of which are paragraphs. So here's the div, and which are its siblings, 4th, 5th, 6th, 0. We have 4th, 5th, and 6th. Okay, 4th, 5th, and 6th are red. So it's when they're following. So the plus is the instant sibling right next to me. The tilde is all my siblings which follow, but not the ones which precede. Just interesting. That's why I put these things together so we could see them. All right, so here we're selecting target. Anything which has the target attribute. We're going to make it red. So which ones will be red? HTTP and HTTPS, right? This one here, HTTP, and this one here, HTTPS. I have target, visited, let's take that out. There we go. I visited that. That was confusing. Now we have target equals blank. Which ones will be red? Same, right? No! HP Google. That's been visited, so it's slightly different color. Now we have containing. So here it has the attribute alt, which contains Vancouver. So anything which has the attribute alt that has the word Vancouver in it. So if we look at this, right, this has Vancouver in it. This has Vancouver in it. But notice, oh, that's it. There's no lowercase Vancouver. So it showed those pictures bigger. because it said make the width on that 300 pixels. So that's containing, that little tilde. Before, what did the tilde say? Quiz. Like if we had div tilde p, what's that? Div tilde p. This one here, what's that do? All siblings, all paragraphs which follow that div, right, on the same level will be selected. What about when we had div plus p? Immediate sibling, right? The one right next to that div, following that div, that's a paragraph, is selected. Curious, if we didn't have something here, if we had something like that, will fourth P be read still? No. Has to be right next door. Right? Interesting. But if we had this, fourth, fifth, and sixth, fourth, fifth, and sixth. So for that plus to work, it needs to be right next door, right following it. How many people are still finding this interesting? How many people are like, ugh? All right, so that was containing Vancouver. That's the last one we looked at, wasn't it? Here's begins with, that little symbol. And these are all on that list, CSS selectors. And the W3 school selectors reference. So these are all right here. Okay. So it begins with A. So the alt begins with A. This is kind of a cool one because this began with A, and this began with capital A, but case matters. Okay, so just selected that one. Just, looking at what's out there, familiarizing ourselves with some of the possibilities. Here's ends with. Ends with is $ equals. So alt will end with building. And so this ended with building, that alt text. Ended with building. And here's also ends with. You could also, only change from the previous file, you can also do it like this. Alt $ equals building, alt $ equals building. It looks the same both ways. Alt $ equals building. So let's look at ends with here. CSS selectors. I didn't change it. End. $, begins with, ends with PDF. Well, I don't know why I included that extra bit. Alt, those are exactly the same. All right, so this one needs to go away. Unfortunately, I've got to renumber all of my files. So then we have A active. So what is the active state for an anchor tag? When I push down, active, right? Okay, that's the active state. So that's A : active. That's a pseudo class. We call it a pseudo class. Here's visited. Active will be red. Visited will be slate gray. So there's a visited. If I visited that now, it's not recognizing I visited. Let's relaunch it. Go back. Now it's gray. I don't know why that one didn't go gray. I guess when you go blank, target blank, doesn't do it. So you can see a target blank here. If you haven't seen that before, it means open in a new tab. Okay. So that's a link visited. And then we have a link unvisited. So we have just link active visited. So just link is like, hey, black is like, I haven't been there yet. That's just a link. These have been visited. I haven't been there yet. It's just a link. So those are the pseudo classes for links. We've seen the hover one, right? But we also have link active visited. And then here's the hover one. Active visited hover. So hover is hot pink when you hover over it. Hover's nice. And then we have first child. So LI first child, that's going to select the first LI in the list. It's the first child. Child. So how many people have seen first child before? How many people have never seen first child? So then we have last child. So what's going to be selected? Fifth, right? LI last child. Those will be red. And then we have first of type. LI first of type. Same as first child. Sometimes you can see first of type. And you have last of type. Same as last child. And then you have nth child. Even. LI nth child even. Cool. So that's going to make second and fourth red. The even children. And your odd children, LI nth child odd. See it? Going to make the odd children red. And here's zebra striping. So hey, take all my nth children and give them this color, my evens, and take all my odds and give them that color. And do that for all my table rows. Right? So here's my table row, here's a table row, and I get zebra striping. We saw this already, right? A little bit of review. And then we have nth child, where you can just say which child. Child, give me number 3. Give me the third one, third child. And then we have nth last child, 10. So it comes from the just looking at my notes here. Comes from the back. So here's 40. It goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Selected the 10th from the back. Right? These notes shouldn't be in this file yet. Now we have AN plus B. Confusing. If you look up this stuff, MDN, CSS, child selector, nth child, you get this thing. AN plus B minus 1. Huh? AN plus B. Huh? 1N plus 0, 2N plus 0, 2N plus 1 would select, 2N plus 1 would select 1, 3, 5, and 7. Okay, it starts out at 1, and then for each time it increments, it's adding 2. So it'd be 1, and then 1 plus 2 is 5, right? Because we're on first time. In programming, often we start at 0 when we count stuff. 0-based index, right? And so if the first time through is 0, what is 2 times 0? 0 plus 1. So 2 times 0, the number of times through the loop, right? Sorry. is 0 plus 1 is 1. So that's where you have 1. And then the second time through the loop, which is number 1, if n is the number of times that we're doing this, right? The second time through is 1 because the first time through was 0. It's a 0 base index. So now 2 times 1 is 2 plus 1 is 3, right? And then the second time through, no, wait, the third time through, which is 2, 2 times 2 is 4 plus 1 is 5. And then the next time through, which is 3, fourth time through, right? 3 times 2 is 6 plus 1 is 7. Okay? So that's the pattern. So here we have 3n plus 2. When n is 0, what's my first number going to be? 2. When n is 1, what's my number going to be? 5. When n is 2, what's my number going to be? 2 times 3 is 6 plus 2 is 8. But you understand what's going on. When n is 3, what's my number going to be? Do you see the pattern? Wait, 2, 5, 8, 11, 14, 17, 20, 23. What would 23 have been? Which time through? That's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 times 3 is 21 plus 2 is 23. So those are the numbers it's going to light up. 2, 5, 8, 11, 14, 17, 20, 23. 2, 5, 8, 11, 14, 17, 20, 23. Okay. I want you to code up a ULLI list. You could do it with this Emmet notation right here. All right? And I want you to do LI nth child. And I want you to change that AN plus B to print out these numbers. Go.